Hier ist Kevin Allocca aus New York. Viel Spaß dabei.
Thank you very
Hi,
much.
Kevin.
Hey, guys. Excellent. Hello. I'm Kevin Allocca. I'm the head of culture and trends at YouTube. And my team studies what's popular on YouTube, and then we try to help contextualize that and contextualize all the things that are happening in this massive and ever-growing creative ecosystem. So YouTube is having its 10th birthday this month, and it started out really as just this simple place to be able to post and share a video. And it has in the years since played a central role in reshaping how entertainment, news, education, and sort of all these aspects of our culture and how those things have evolved. And it's coincided with this shift in how people behave online. And so I'm going to tell you about three concepts that I believe are basically at the heart of what makes this environment so unique and the things that successful viral content creators leverage, whether they realize this or not. These are not guidelines. Instead, think of them as sort of the core principles of the web that help us understand what makes this moment in time such a special one. And they are open distribution, interactivity, and authenticity. And we'll go through each. But we're going to start with open distribution because if you want to understand what's happening right now, you have to first examine what the conditions are that make today different from what we had before. So think back to 15 years ago and how difficult it was to broadcast something, right? You needed a satellite dish and a TV studio, right? And now you have this new technology that's introduced this new model. And it's also introduced entirely new consumption patterns for the people who are connecting with it. And so viral is emblematic of this change, and it's a fundamental change. What is viral? It's sort of, there's no agreed upon definition of what viral means from a data perspective. It actually ends up meaning different things to different people. And it's really just become a shorthand for this new behavior. It's basically distribution based on interactivity. And it's made possible with new and previously non-existent technology and social dynamics. And when we try to apply our pre-existing traditional media lens to a lot of it, things don't make a lot of sense. So I want you to pretend for a second that you're a record executive, okay? And I'm coming to you to pitch a song. And I say, okay, I've got this great song. It's in a language that's only spoken by about 1% of the world's population, but it's about a neighborhood that you've probably never been to. And it's by this 35-year-old comedy rapper. And it's going to be a huge hit. It's got a horse trot dance that goes with it. You would say that this is a terrible idea.
Oppan Gangnam Style. Gangnam Style. Oppan Gangnam Style.
This video is in Korean. It's about a neighborhood in Seoul that most people don't know, and yet it's become incredibly popular with people who don't know much about either of those things. It's been watched over 2 billion times. It's the most viewed video on YouTube. And just for sort of a sake of context here, this is it compared to the numbers 2 through 5 most popular music videos on YouTube, so significant. And no business would ever bet on that, right? It wouldn't make any sense. But that fact actually doesn't have to matter anymore because people that you would never expect are finding these sizable audiences that thrive on the very things that make their work non-traditional. It's this world, in this world without traditional distribution structures and traditional power brokers, people are much more willing to buy into perspectives and personalities that they would not have before. And the result is that these new and authentic voices have surprising power. Bethany Moda is a very popular fashion and beauty vlogger from the United States.
Hey guys, it's Bethers. I really want the base of my channel to be about inner beauty and still feeling confident when you don't have makeup on and you're not all glammed up. Today, I'm going to be doing a haul video, a room tour, Hair Hates Bethany Day, computer log. Having over 5 million besties is just blowing my mind, so thank you guys so much. Let's get started.
She now has over 8 million subscribers or fans on YouTube. She averages 2 to 3 million views an episode. She had a major clothing line and jewelry line at the age of 18. And she and Psy operate in this open distribution model that puts value in their uniqueness and in their ability to inspire reaction through creativity. And that creativity comes in all types, from the guys that auto-tune the news, to the guys who make videos about video games that are outpacing cable TV programming in the size of their audience, and to people like one of my favorites, Gabriel Valenciano, who's a Filipino personality who became kind of a viral sensation when he decided that instead of being a part of other people's trends, he was just going to invent his own, and he called it the super selfie. matter that nobody else joined in. He just started making more of these for the sake of making something creative. Entertainment is no longer a passive experience, right? We are all an active part of it. And the ways that we connect with it are completely changing too. For most of the 20th century, marketers had a great deal of control over the context in which their messages were experienced, right? You bought ads against a certain programming block or in a certain magazine with a high level of confidence about, and expectation about when and how people would be exposed to it. But the world has changed, right? Half of YouTube viewing is on mobile devices. Hundreds of millions of videos are watched and shared via social platforms where content is mixed with innumerable other discussions and contexts. And in fact, the portability of content on the web means that context and conversation can sometimes be generated around our messages in ways that are sometimes impossible to predict and evolve in very strange ways. This is an example. This is a viewership chart for a specific music video on YouTube. And this song that it's a chart for was released and was a popular hit song 15 years ago. And it still sees modest viewership, except that we discovered that it was seeing a 500% increase in views every year on April 30th. Seems kind of random. This hashtag is responsible for that behavior. Right? YouTube is filled with examples like this. This is another one. Any guess about what video might see a sudden spike in views on April 1st of each year? So this is Rick Astley's Never Gonna Give You Up. For those of you that don't know, it's sort of a thing called a Rickroll, where you tell somebody they're going to see one thing and then they end up seeing this instead. It's a popular prank on the internet. So of course, it sees a spike on April Fool's Day every year. And the important takeaway here is that Rick Astley didn't create this to be used in this way or at this time, right? That extra meaning and relevance was actually generated by the audience. And that's a phenomenon that was incredibly rare in the last century, but is becoming very common now. These are examples of content and creativity where the video acts as a vehicle for our interactivity, right? And this happens all the time. We reappropriate videos or songs or things to serve an alternative purpose or to represent another idea or concept for us. In fact, there are many instances of content where that became popular less because of what the content itself said, but more about what the content says about the person who shares it, what it says about their identity. This was one of the most viewed videos from the World Cup last year. It was viewed tens of millions of times, and it spread because it was about a fan's expression of their identity, right, in the purest way. This is a video that comes at it from a different angle. Many of you may have seen this before, but you might not know that it was also popular in certain online forums in the US. So why was it popular? Well, it's very clever, right? But it's also about identity, right? It's about our sense of being different and accepting that. And these videos that we share often speak to our identity and compel us to want to associate them with ourselves socially. And so consequently, you have these two pieces of creative that normally would not have been seen outside of Germany, but were very popular in different parts of the world. And so as you can see, this ability to openly distribute led to something else. It led to the ability to, through technology, participate in the media that we consume, right? We are all now participants in our entertainment media. The professional sports leagues, particularly in the US, are starting to figure this out in a very literal way. Major League Baseball posted tens of thousands of videos last baseball season. These are the most popular. The interesting thing is that only 3 of them are of baseball players actually playing baseball. In fact, many of them don't even have baseball players in them. It's actually the fans who are the stars of these videos. One of the unlikely stars of the baseball season last year was one of these people in the stands.
Fans, don't forget, for tomorrow's special back-to-school offer, get 3 $1 tickets for tomorrow night's game.
This is 8-year-old Jonathan Esponda from Miami. This video was displayed on a Jumbotron at a game. It quickly made its way to the web where people really loved it. There were millions of these Vine loops, millions of views on YouTube, and it's ridiculous, right? But it represents this big shift, right? Because the videos that people watch often are the videos they want to talk about. And in a world where messaging and where popularity is driven by what people want to talk about, you get some very unusual things. But that's cool, and it's invigorating. And because what we're seeing here is essentially a blurring the line between the content and the audience. And that means that we can't think about content as a passive exercise for the audience anymore, right? Brands and content creators, for many of them, the objective is increasingly to inspire people to participate in something. And sometimes it's not about a single piece of content. Sometimes huge groups of diverse people are building a collaborative body of work by participating together. Last summer, some people started challenging each other to dump ice water on their heads to raise money for charity. It went from one person to the next. And the network of people that were participating together quickly got much, much bigger. Now, you may have heard of it, or many of us did, because a lot of celebrities started getting involved with it. But it was not just celebrities, right? Within a week, thousands of these were getting posted each day, and the videos were eventually watched and shared billions of times. Some of them were really bad. And some of them were really good. What it resulted in was something that was much more powerful and moving in the aggregate than any of its individual parts, right? And it was because it was capitalizing on these important interactive behaviors, and it raised over $200 million for charity. What we're seeing is what I call a shared cultural ownership, where the audience has a stake in the experiences that we are creating together. It's still possible to spend money to get eyeballs on something, which is often the objective, but we often have to be much more innovative if we want people to care about what it is that we have to say. And YouTube is built upon this idea of participation, and its interactivity is actually what sets it apart from past mediums. Some people are figuring it out. These 6 creators on YouTube have a combined subscriber base of over 50 million. Their audience has a very different kind of trust in them. It's been built through authentic and interactive communication, and it's a trust their audience decreasingly has with television and radio in the countries that they live. With a technology that's so interactive, it's no surprise that increasingly the value is being placed on people who can remove barriers and communicate on honest terms with a high level of perceived intimacy. And that's why being professional or polished is less important on the web than authenticity. Right? Authenticity has become a core commodity, an essential principle of web video right now, and it's why some of the biggest stars in entertainment are faces that you might not know. You may not be aware, but this bunch of guys are some of the biggest names in sports. They don't maybe look like it. This was their first video. It was posted 6 years ago.
Right now my hands are covered with the blood of all the thoughts that flood my aching mind. I know when left alone I'll find the time.
They named themselves Dude Perfect, and now they look like this.
They like the way I do this when I crank it like a drum. Yeah, they like the way I do this when I crank it like a drum. Quick flow, heavy metal, set the bar, next level, wasteland, get on making so glow. Let it go with them elbows back, it's smoking just like this track. Shirt is over from all the sweat, catch my breath. Now hear me roar, I'm an apex predator from the sycamore, that's the Skeletor.
They average about 4 million views on every episode they put out. And many of these YouTube celebrities are commanding these massive audiences now that, particularly with younger demographics, are surpassing TV. But they're very different from the types of professional entertainment that we were used to seeing. And at the same time, major players in the entertainment industry are starting to catch on and move in their direction. This video is arguably the most important music video of 2014. This is Beyonce's 7-Eleven. It was reportedly shot over the course of an afternoon in her LA hotel with a bunch of her dancers. The video was a huge success. It's one of the most viewed music videos of the last 6 months. It's been seen over 200 million times. But I want to point out a few things that make this video particularly unique and an important indicator of this moment in time. So I got a lot of headlines like this, and why? Well, first, it's essentially the first music video that I can remember that I can recall being made entirely of what's essentially a series of animated images, right? Which means that there was this immediate interactivity. Beyonce clearly understands her audience because right away the internet was flooded with animated images like these that were posted by her fans, right? So her work went from this not-so-subtle nod at remix culture, and it meant that her work could go from music video to remix art in seconds. And it wasn't just the fans doing the remixing here. She borrowed the whole style of the video from a YouTube creator. Did anything seem familiar to you about the style of that video? That's right. The conceit of the video itself is an homage to our pal from before, Gabriel Valenciano, and the super selfie thing. Right? Beyonce has sort of a known history of scouring the web for creativity, and it was reported that she drew her inspiration here, not from a studio in LA, but from a garage somewhere else in the world. But what's perhaps most interesting about this video, right, is what's most apparent. From its inspiration to its aesthetic, it feels authentic to her fans, right? The layers that exist between major pop stars and their fans are stripped away, and we're participating in something with her on equal ground. The accessibility of her persona and her art is at the core. I see a lot of people that grew up with a different media that sort of deride the stars of the web. They're not as highly produced or as talented as the people that we grew up watching on TV. But their talent is actually in their ability to be accessible and to connect with people and to build communities. And that's core to what smart digital creativity is about right now. Connecting through authentic communication, whether people realize that they are doing it or not, is how things work now. And many brands are starting to sort this out. There's a few different approaches that have been taken. One is to not take yourself too seriously. Volvo Trucks did this very effectively by even getting their boss involved in the creative.
My name is Claes Nilsson, president of Volvo Trucks. I've learned that when you want to make a YouTube hit, you need a hook at the beginning of the film. And here it is. This is a hook from the new Volvo FMX. Made of cast iron, and it holds up to 32 tons.
Their brand comes off as quirky and accessible, and people really responded to that. And even when when Volvo wasn't being authentic by putting their employees in the videos, they were being authentic by owning a voice that was fun and real. And this episode was one in a series that also brought us this one that you may have seen.
Now I stand here before you. What you see is a body crafted to perfection. A pair of legs engineered to defy the laws of physics. And a mindset to master the most epic of splits.
Who can say where the road goes, where the day flows, only time.
This is arguably the most successful online spot of that year. It was watched 70 million times. The absurdity of this whole series helped build a brand and consumer relationship around this very unique point of view. And despite the small market for what they were selling, these giant trucks, they saw a 31% increase in sales that month year to year. Another brand, GoPro, took a different approach. their brand content entirely about their consumers, right? They made a simple choice. They said rather than show off the features of their cameras, they would instead invest in elevating the work of people who already own them. What they built was this perfect alignment between the product and the conversation by making it about their own customers' voices and experiences. Being authentic is not really about talking a certain way or sounding hip, right? It's about being true to your identity. And the top trending video of this year so far is actually not some prank or hilarious clip or some celebrity collaboration. It was a small video that was created by the Ad Council in the United States.
And I can't change, even if I tried, even if I wanted to. And I can't change, even if I tried, even if I wanted to. My love, my love, my love, she keeps me warm. She keeps me warm. She keeps me warm. She keeps me warm.
Smart digital really isn't about gimmicks and widgets and things that get innovation awards, right? It's about using the tools that we have to intimately connect with people in intelligent, meaningful, and real ways. How? By understanding the basics of how these concepts work and building experiences that respect these developments, not subvert them. And anyone who says they fully understand how all this stuff works is lying, right? The ones who are succeeding at this now are the ones that began experimenting a few years ago, who didn't wait for a path to be trodden, right? YouTube is only 10 years old. We're just starting to understand these dynamics. 10 years is not a long time in the history of media. And it's scary to think about how hard all of this could be, but that's what makes today such an exciting time to be in web media. We're seeing the cycles of creative and social innovation accelerate at a pace unlike any before. So my hope today was to help you understand some of these conditions around what make viral work. And I know that a lot of people are looking for best practices or some sort of cheat sheet to making viral things. But the talents that succeed at this, the ones who are really good at this stuff, are the ones who are rewriting the rules for how it should be done in the first place. Thank you very much.
Kevin Allocca.